This podcast is brought to you by Lacrosse_AllStars. Growing the game, one podcast at a time.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Lacrosse Podcast, brought to you by LaxAllStars on the Lacrosse_AllStars Podcast Network. I'm your host, Filthy Rich, and Justin's in Cuba, so you just got me this week. Add in those crowd cheering sound effects, Joe. We got a lot of lacrosse to talk about. It was another wonderful week, but we'll get into that right after a word from our sponsors.
Wooden sticks haven't died, they've just evolved. A hickory box lacrosse frame can still be used. It can play against plastic and metal, and in the right hands, it can win. When it's all said and done, and my stick making days are over, it's humbling to think that my sticks will still be out there.
All right, welcome back. Got a lot of lacrosse to talk about, so we'll jump right into the weekly recap. Georgia dropped 2 this weekend, surprisingly. Toronto beat them 14-9 after, a serious run. It seemed like they were having maybe a little bit of goaltending issues. I don't know, but Lyle was still doing his thing. It was a wild game of goals. They started to make a comeback, but it seemed like Toronto was just too much when you got Captain America on the floor. What are you going to do? San Diego looking really good again. Defeats Calgary 15-9. New England defeated Georgia 13-12. Just held on just long enough. Man, I can't believe Georgia dropped 2 this weekend. Buffalo came in hot. Ian McKay had a great game. They took down Philly. It seems like we're having a hard time stopping these early runs. Buffalo, they got on us, and even though we did make a comeback, we tied it back up. It just seems like for some reason these early runs are taking a lot out of us. But it was still a good game. We're playing well. Big Cat did his thing. Come on, boys, just give me one. Justin will be back and he'll be talking trash again. Saskatchewan took down Rochester 12-7. San Diego, again, it seemed like a couple people were playing twice this weekend. San Diego took down Vancouver 11-10. And Colorado left the Wings, the only defeated team, beating Calgary 12-7. So, man, we got to do a little bit of looking inward to get a couple wins, but maybe we just got to fight more. I don't know. We'll see what Justin thinks about that when he gets back. But rough weekend for Philadelphia lacrosse again. On a more positive note, we have my interview with Jovi Miller from LaxCon 2019. We had the pleasure of sitting together for a quick interview after a panel on being black in lacrosse, but really the larger issue of diversity in not only our sport, but in the community in general. We'll take a quick word from our sponsors and we'll be right back.
Wooden sticks haven't died, they've just evolved. A hickory box lacrosse frame can still be used. It can play against plastic and metal, and in the right hands, it can win. When it's all said and done, and my stick making days are over, it's humbling to think that my sticks will still be out there.
So, ladies and gentlemen, again, joining me on the podcast, we have Jovi Miller, Jovi Nation. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we just sat in on a panel for I had a couple great people on it. Jovi, Kyle Harrison, the director of Icon Sports. I'm sorry, her name's
Jasmine Smith.
Yeah, Jasmine Smith. I'm slipping. Detroit City Lacrosse. We had some great. I feel like powerful figures in lacrosse, especially from the African American side of things. But basically, just discussing the black lacrosse experience. So I figured since I had him here, we might as well talk about it. Jovi, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
So I guess just to start off, we're just going to jump right into it. discussing, being black in lacrosse and I guess growing the game in general is kind of our purpose here with LaxAllStars. What do you think is one of the most important parts to growing diversity, I guess, in the game of lacrosse? I mean, we discussed, and we'll get into that later, but we always talk about representation is always key. Sure. But one point I think I heard was that was really awesome was the and I don't want to guide this conversation, but I thought this is as a growing up, when we didn't have this kind of representation, I always noticed that. Within our own community, people are like, "What are you doing? That's white people stuff," and sure. But honestly, the craziest part is now it seems like I'm in the streets and people are like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we're out here," like that's one thing I've noticed. But can you speak on the topic of us versus us, or let's not say versus, but
there's I guess for the longest time there's been this idea that one side is doing it wrong, so I guess there's this level of how people are defining authenticity as far as whether it be playing lacrosse, whether it be coaching lacrosse, or that you're being in a space that's unfamiliar with black people in particular. And I think that over the course of time, luckily over the last, I don't say 5 or 6 years, we've become much more comfortable being in these spots, in these spaces where it seems like there's a level of camaraderie now, there's togetherness now that I don't believe that was there maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't even seem like it was that long ago when it wasn't there. And do you think, I think a lot of the progress with it growing within our community is and we hate the coded language, but let's call it what it is.
Sure.
These inner city programs,
sure,
where you're giving kids who might feel that you see the suburban side, it's like a bunch of rich white kids and stuff, and they're like, okay, that's soft, that's not for me. But now you have these programs where we all look alike, we're from the same neighborhoods, you know what I mean? And it's a lot, it's more palatable maybe to the community.
The fact is it's like with anything, you're more or less if your friends are and they're playing basketball, then you're more than likely to play basketball.
Absolutely.
You're going to be, whatever is around you, especially if you want to do something athletically, you're going to be more prone to do whatever your friends are doing.
Team-based sports.
Yeah, exactly. Team-based sports. In our particular case, introducing lacrosse is one thing. Introducing it correctly and actually having people that are going to stay in the community is another. So I notice a lot. Luckily now we're getting more. You're starting to see a lot of these heads that are staying in these areas and where they're around the kids consistently, rather than, hey, let's do a clinic, even though the kids can't pass and catch.
And then see you again next year.
I'll see you again next year. So now you're seeing a consistency with a lot of these, especially higher ups, people that have cachet in the game that are finally going into these areas and consistently being around these kids of color. And now you're starting to see the game is not, I won't say it's as accessible as it can be, but I do believe it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot more accessible. I mean, even just when I was in high school, we barely had a team. So we're still getting there, but it's definitely a lot more accessible. But also speaking on the accessibility and developing, these young players, we tend to discuss, black in lacrosse, the not getting, I don't want to say the proper attention, but the term brawl gets thrown around, and we're not getting as much, of the opportunity to grow as skilled players.
Sure.
So it's also a good thing being able to see, a kid who might only get to go to one clinic, a year, having proper, coaching and stuff, and actually, we're able to develop, our talent.
It's again. The fact is if you see somebody who can play and he's an athlete, I think the unfortunate part is we have terminologies that seem to only be associated with black players, people of color in particular. So if he's really fast, but he's got a great split dodge but can't shoot, he's raw. If he doesn't understand the game, through and through, he's raw. He's a project. But the fact is that there are just as many white kids, and just even more seeing as the fact that we are such a minority in the game, where that's the same instance, but you're like, he can work with this guy, but he can't work with another. I'm not saying that as to be divisive on that. I'm just simply saying that it seems like the terminology.
Perception,
Perception is everything in this case, but like I said, I think we're getting a lot closer to the conversation. Not even the conversation, but we're getting closer to actions being where you see the same kid, white kid in particular, and you look at him and say, if I work with him on this, this thing or that thing or whatever, I can make him a hell of a player. You're seeing that more often now.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's guys like you and Kyle and Chaz Woodson, and it's kind of crazy. Even just having the more we get out there, and the more we're actually able to display the skill that we have, it's becoming easier. It's like now you could go back and say, yeah, but like, okay, but Kyle Harrison, you know what I mean? It's like yes, I might be a raw athlete, but like you get me some shooting drills, and we can talk about jump shots.
I think the cooler thing is actually you're getting more examples now.
Yeah.
So the fact that it wasn't very saturated at first, so you could only refer to Kyle Harrison. You could only refer to Johnny Christmas or just Chaz Woodson once upon a time. Now it's starting to get flooded. I believe when I was in college, it was a really cool time because it was myself. I was a number 18 overall recruit, and then the Brattons were number 1. I was gonna
say we were hard that year. We came in hard that year.
Yes, we came in together, and I had met Shamel. I really don't talk to Ramel as much, but I talked to Shamel sometime into our college careers, and we made a pact to each other to stay in contact. So it was really cool that, we played, of course, Syracuse, Virginia is the big game every year, and we have ESPN or ESPNU, and we have all those people watching the games. It was really cool that we were on the same page. We knew we were actually, it was bigger than us.
Yeah, you know what
you're playing for a bigger purpose than yourself. So it was cool to have it saturated, like I said, with 3 midfielders at the time. If I'm missing anybody, I'm really sorry. But I do remember those two in particular. We were all part of the same class, highly touted recruits. So it was really cool to be in that space. But like I said, you're starting to see more and more in a more consistent time. So it's not just, you remember the time when the Brattons and Jovi Miller were?
Yeah.
So there's getting more times and they're crunching them together. So
we're saturation, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And speaking on saturation, hopefully once again, in sometime in the near future, we'll be able to get another all-black team. Because listen, I'm just saying, and you could speak on it. Getting to play against them, even being on the opposite side, like there is a level. When we recently we were honored with the opportunity to go up to Onondaga to play at Last Night, and there's people from all over the world, but even still, like you're on opposing teams, you line up, face-offs going up, you line up, and you look to your left, and there's another black dude, and you pause him for a second because you're talking. It's like, yo, it's crazy, we're out here. It's like, so like, yeah, that like just there is a joy and like something spiritual about like seeing your people out there and sharing that experience, because we love this sport. We it's like when you see someone, it's like, oh, you know how I feel about this.
But game is beautiful. I think we're, like I said, I think 5-6 years ago we were in a much different spot. We're in a much better spot these days, and I think we're going in the right direction. But I just think it involves people that honestly don't say it's their problem. When you keep saying it's not your problem, I guess you're kicking the can down the road rather than picking it up. So the fact is that the conversation is ongoing, but there's more people talking about it. That's a beautiful thing. It's not just a small little area, group of kids. That's beautiful. And we're getting closer and closer, like I said, to getting over that proverbial hump.
Yeah, and it seems like in America it tends to be the conversation is always what everybody's uncomfortable about.
Yes, sir.
But these instances happen, and we, I hate to keep referring to the panel we just watched, but it was a great one. Speaking up for your teammates, and as coaches, just taking charge and empowering, empowering individuals, empowering your players and your teammates, because it's all just a community. And I grew up in North Philly, and I guess I had an interesting experience because I was I was one of 3 black players on the team, but really I was the only one that was there from lacrosse. The other 2 followed me from football, and we could stay in shape, and the coach said we like to hit people, so it was cool. But it was a really diverse area, so it was when we traveled to the suburbs, and you'd see like one black kid on their team, and you'd be like, oh, that's weird, I guess, but I didn't notice because when we went back to school after practice, it's as diverse as possible. So I never even had to deal with that until you get later on in life, and you realize that once you're away from that diverse area, no one else is used to seeing. Like maybe they never had one black player on their team.
Which is common.
Yeah, yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it is somewhat common.
Yeah, and it's just I think the saturation and just getting to know each other, because we're all here for the same thing. And when you realize that like we're all just here trying to play lacrosse and enjoying the sport, and it's all about respect, and like just speaking out speaking out is really easy when you're in a position when it doesn't affect you. Speaking out is extremely easy when it doesn't affect you. So that's like I guess I just trailed off on there.
Oh no, I'll say speaking against might be a lot easier, I guess. In most cases.
Oh yeah, because you're with the crowd.
Because you're with the crowd. So in many cases, it's if I tell you that I've been discriminated against, but you've never felt discrimination, you might just tell me right away I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Which is unfair, but it's common. Also, the fact that is in most cases.
I mean, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. So I completely understand both sides of it. I do.
Honestly, we covered a lot. I can't even really think of anything else right now.
I got a podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, I apologize. I'm a little starstruck. I follow the podcast, so I forgot. If you don't, definitely check out Jovi's podcast. If you want to plug that for us.
Sure. It's the Give It Context podcast. It's honestly, it streams on everything now. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. On iOS. It's on all of it. So yeah, Give It Context. I actually just got picked up recently by Lacrosse Radio. So
I did see that.
So all of my they'll stream through their website now. But look, man, it's most of the time I'm not even talking lacrosse. We're actually talking about sport-related issues that have an ethical spin on it.
I literally just the other day just ran through all of your episodes, so I'm pretty caught up. If you haven't, you should definitely catch up on it.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, it's a great podcast. They can catch you on social media.
Yes, Twitter and Instagram in particular, Jovi Nation, JOVI Nation, NATION 23. Jovi Nation 23.
It's always active. If you ever want to chat, shoot him a message. He's quick to respond. I feel like some people don't enjoy these conversations, but without him, we can't grow the game. So thank you for being here.
Much appreciated.
As always, thank you for tuning in to LaxAllStars, and this is the Lacrosse Podcast.